The Stoics, known for their keen insights into human nature, mastered the art of reading people's true intentions. They believed that understanding who we surround ourselves with can shape our lives profoundly. And while they didn't label anyone as evil, they did recognize traits that could ruin your peace and sanity. So, today, we're diving deep into the psychology of deception and manipulation to help you identify the warning signs of a truly toxic individual. Don't get fooled, knowing these signs can save you from trouble before it starts. Stick with me until the end, and if you find this video insightful, be sure to like, subscribe, and share any stories you might have in the comments. Let's jump right in. Chapter 1. Charming, too good to be true. When you first meet someone who seems almost perfect, charming, magnetic, and effortlessly engaging, it's easy to feel captivated. We're naturally drawn to people who make us feel special and appreciated. But sometimes, that charm hides something far darker. In fact, one of the most common traits among individuals with manipulative or harmful intentions is a charm that feels just a bit over the top, almost as if it's a performance designed to draw you in. This isn't the friendly, warm charisma that comes from genuine interest. It's a carefully crafted act to gain your trust as quickly as possible. These people may shower you with compliments, make you feel like you're the only person in the room, or seem to deeply understand you right from the start. The intensity of this attention can feel intoxicating, but there's often something subtly unsettling about how fast the connection forms. They may go out of their way to establish trust and intimacy, making you feel as if you found someone who truly gets you. While genuine connections can happen quickly, with manipulative people, it often feels like they're trying to skip the natural progression of friendship or romance, moving instead into a place of intense closeness way too soon. One of their primary tools is excessive flattery. Compliments aren't just sprinkled into the conversation, they're woven in relentlessly and often feel exaggerated. You might find yourself blushing from the praise, but also a bit uncomfortable by how often and intensely they tell you how amazing you are. These compliments can feel validating at first, but often lack real substance. For example, they might praise things about you without truly knowing you, or emphasize qualities you aren't even sure you have. This can be a huge red flag, as it indicates that the flattery is more about getting you on their side than genuinely recognizing and appreciating who you are. Charming manipulators will also work to quickly establish shared experiences or interests, often mirroring your opinions and values to make it seem like you're incredibly compatible. If you mention a hobby or an interest, they'll jump on it, claiming to love it too, even if they've barely heard of it. It's subtle, but this tactic is designed to make you feel comfortable and bonded to them quickly. Mirroring is a well-known psychological technique that can be used for good, like building rapport, but in the hands of someone manipulative, it becomes a way to manufacture a connection that isn't real. When the charm is all an act, it becomes clear that their words and actions don't fully match up. For instance, someone who genuinely cares about you will show consistency in their kindness and support. However, a charming manipulator may be overwhelmingly supportive one moment and then subtly dismissive the next. This inconsistency can be confusing, leaving you questioning whether you misinterpreted things. They might be attentive and kind to your face, but quickly become disinterested or even subtly mocking when you're distracted or out of sight. This type of charm relies on keeping you off balance, wondering which version of them is real and ultimately more focused on winning their approval. Another hallmark of too good to be true charm is how they handle challenges to their persona. If you push back or show doubt, you might notice an immediate shift. Their reaction can be defensive or subtly passive-aggressive, reminding you that it's only their charming, agreeable side you're allowed to see. Any attempt on your part to express concern or ask for more time to get to know them may be met with frustration or annoyance, revealing how important it is for them to keep you in a state of admiration and compliance. This can be especially alarming because it shows that they aren't interested in an equal relationship, only one where they're in control of how things progress. These individuals also often maintain this facade across many relationships. You may notice that they seem to have a long list of close friends or admirers who speak highly of them or who they reference as people who just get them. This wide social net serves to bolster their image, making them seem like a beloved figure. However, if you start to dig deeper or observe their interactions more closely, you might see that these relationships lack depth or that the same pattern of flattery and control seems to be applied across the board. This type of behavior keeps everyone at a distance, preventing anyone from seeing the true person behind the charm. Recognizing the difference between genuine charm and a manipulative front can be challenging, especially since these individuals are often highly skilled at what they do. They thrive on keeping you guessing, keeping you off balance, and making you feel special while subtly planting seeds of doubt. The key is to look for consistency. Genuine charm is warm and open, without a need to rush or push for deeper levels of closeness too quickly. It's built on real rapport, with both people contributing equally. A manipulative charm, on the other hand, has an agenda. It's crafted to pull you in, hold you tight, and then gradually take control of the relationship. If you feel like someone's charm is overwhelming or seems to be pulling you into a connection too quickly, take a step back and evaluate. Real relationships don't need to be rushed. If it feels too good to be true, it might be worth considering why they're working so hard to keep you close. True evil often hides behind a veil of charm, but once you know the signs, you'll be better equipped to recognize it before it's too late. The goal is to protect yourself, ensuring that the people who enter your life are genuine and trustworthy. Chapter 2: Lack of Empathy, a Dangerous Void. One of the most telling signs that you're dealing with a harmful person is a noticeable lack of empathy. Empathy is the capacity to understand and share the feelings of others, and it's a crucial part of building healthy relationships. Most people naturally respond to the emotions of others with kindness and understanding, but when someone lacks empathy, they can cause tremendous harm, often without remorse. A lack of empathy might not be obvious at first, as people skilled in manipulation can mimic caring behavior. However, over time, you'll notice that their reactions are self-centered or dismissive when it comes to others' emotions. An empathy-deficient person might struggle to recognize or respond to the emotional needs of those around them. When you're going through a tough time, they may respond with indifference or even irritation. Rather than comforting you or offering support, they might try to quickly shift the topic back to themselves or dismiss your feelings as trivial. This indifference is not only painful, but a clear sign that they cannot truly connect with others on a deeper level. Even when they express concern, their words might feel hollow or rehearsed, often followed by an attempt to steer the focus back to their own issues or achievements. One red flag to watch for is how they react to the pain or joy of others. A person who lacks empathy may react with sarcasm, ridicule, or mockery when others are vulnerable. In some cases, they may even exploit others' emotions to benefit themselves, twisting personal struggles into opportunities for control or manipulation. For instance, if you share a personal hardship, they might later use it against you, subtly implying weakness or making backhanded comments about it. The inability to feel for others can make these individuals dangerous because they view human emotions as tools or weaknesses rather than genuine experiences. A particularly concerning behavior among empathy-deficient individuals is their reaction to the suffering of animals or children, beings that most people naturally protect and nurture. If someone shows indifference or cruelty toward animals or children, it's a strong indication of a lack of empathy. This type of coldness extends beyond specific actions and indicates an overall disregard for vulnerable beings, reflecting a deeply troubling mindset. Their reactions in these situations can be a revealing test of their true nature, providing a glimpse into an internal void where empathy should exist. It's important to remember that people without empathy can be incredibly skilled at imitating emotions. They may put on a sympathetic front when it serves their interests, offering comfort when it suits them, or displaying anger on behalf of someone as a way to win loyalty. However, these displays are usually short-lived and superficial. Once they've achieved their objective, their facade slips, and they quickly revert to indifference or callousness. Genuine empathy is consistent, a constant presence in relationships, not something that only appears when convenient. In the end, a lack of empathy is a clear warning sign. Being with someone who doesn't understand or value your emotions leads to frustration and loneliness. Relationships require mutual support, and a person without empathy will always be focused on their own needs above all else. Recognizing this trait early can save you from deep emotional scars and help you distance yourself from someone who lacks the capacity to truly care about you. Chapter 3: Manipulative, Gaslighting and Lies. Manipulative people use a range of tactics to maintain control, and one of the most insidious forms of manipulation is gaslighting. Gaslighting is a psychological tactic in which someone tries to make you question your perception, memories, or reality. This strategy is often employed by those with malicious intent to keep you off balance, ensuring that they remain in control while you feel increasingly disoriented and powerless. A manipulative person will lie outright, deny their actions, or distort situations to make you doubt yourself. One way manipulators use gaslighting is by consistently contradicting your memories. For example, they might say, "I never said that," or "You're imagining things," even when you're sure they did or said something specific. Over time, these small denials can lead you to question your own recollection, making you feel unsure about what's real. Gaslighting doesn't just create confusion, it also erodes self-trust, making you more dependent on the manipulator for clarity. This dependence keeps you trapped, doubting yourself and relying on them for a distorted sense of reality. Another manipulative tactic is the use of half-truths or omissions. Instead of lying outright, a manipulative person might tell only part of the story, leaving out key details that would change your perception. This selective storytelling allows them to appear honest while still controlling your understanding of the situation. For instance, they might mention spending time with a friend without telling you that it was a romantic dinner, or they might admit to a mistake but downplay its impact. By carefully crafting these half-truths, they maintain control over the narrative, keeping you from knowing the full picture. Manipulators are also skilled at playing the victim. When confronted, they may twist the situation, making you feel like you're the one at fault. They might say things like, "I can't believe you don't trust me after everything I've done for you," or "You're making a big deal out of nothing." This tactic deflects attention from their behavior and places the burden on you to justify your feelings or actions. Manipulators know that empathy can be a powerful tool, and they exploit it by making you feel guilty or responsible for their actions. Ultimately, dealing with a manipulative person can leave you feeling drained and confused. It's important to trust your instincts and not let anyone make you feel unsure of your own experiences. If you're constantly second-guessing yourself around someone, it's a red flag that they may be using gaslighting and other manipulative tactics to keep you under their control. Chapter 4: Controlling, Signs of Aggression and Dominance. Control is one of the most defining traits of a truly harmful person, and it often shows up in aggressive or domineering behaviors. For controlling individuals, every interaction becomes a power play where they feel the need to dictate every aspect of your life. This behavior rarely appears overtly at first. Instead, it may be disguised as a protective or caring actions, like checking up on you frequently, asking where you are, or showing concern over who you're spending time with. They may phrase it in ways that sound supportive, but as the relationship progresses, it becomes clear that this so-called concern is just the beginning of an expectation for constant access to your life, time, and even your thoughts. Initially, controlling people may assert themselves through subtle, psychological tactics that seem harmless on the surface. They might make suggestions about who you should spend time with, how you should dress, or even what you should believe. While it may start with gentle advice or preferences, these behaviors can quickly shift into unspoken rules or expectations. Over time, you might find that making a simple decision without their input feels almost impossible, as they've conditioned you to seek their approval on everything. As they gain more confidence in their ability to influence you, controlling individuals often escalate their tactics, sometimes moving from verbal to physical forms of dominance. Body language becomes a powerful tool for them to assert control, with subtle yet intimidating gestures like standing uncomfortably close, locking you in intense eye contact, or using their physicality to command space. Even if they're not outwardly aggressive, their stance and presence can send a clear message. They want to assert power, creating an environment where you're forced to feel small, vulnerable, and dominated. Verbal aggression is another tool they use to establish dominance. In moments where you challenge or disagree with them, they may respond by raising their voice, using threatening language, or making demeaning remarks that subtly erode your confidence. These individuals will often accuse you of disrespecting or disregarding them if you express your own thoughts or opinions, framing your independence as a direct affront to their authority. This verbal bullying often serves as a prelude to more intense behaviors as they test the boundaries of what you'll tolerate. By gradually pushing the limits, they gauge how much control they can exert, knowing that once they cross a line, it's often harder for you to push back. Over time, controlling individuals start to limit your freedom in subtle yet impactful ways. You might find them making decisions on your behalf, telling you what you should want or need, and subtly diminishing your sense of independence. For instance, they may insist on managing your social calendar, finances, or career choices, always under the pretense of helping you. But as their involvement grows, you realize that you've lost the ability to make independent decisions. Your autonomy is compromised, and you might find yourself constantly second-guessing your choices, worrying about whether they will meet their standards or cause them to react negatively. Each decision you make becomes a potential trigger for their disapproval, creating a climate of fear where you feel compelled to conform to their expectations. This type of control is often reinforced through gaslighting, a psychological manipulation tactic where they make you question your own perception and memory. They may claim, "I never said that," or "you're imagining things," making you doubt your reality. By causing you to question your own judgment, they further strip away your confidence, leaving you reliant on them for a sense of stability. This dependence plays into their control as they thrive on creating a world where they're the ultimate authority. You may begin to believe that their version of reality is more valid than your own, a dynamic that makes it easier for them to manipulate your thoughts and actions. Physical intimidation may also start to play a role in maintaining control. This doesn't necessarily mean outright violence, but can include more covert physical behaviors that serve as silent threats. They might hover over you during conversations, block your path if you're trying to leave, or use forceful gestures to make a point. Even subtle actions, like gripping your arm tightly during a disagreement, serve to establish physical superiority and remind you of their power. While these behaviors might not be openly violent, their purpose is clear. They are meant to intimidate, to make you think twice before crossing them or asserting your independence. At its core, the aim of a controlling individual is to break down your autonomy and ensure that every aspect of your life aligns with their desires. They want you to become dependent on their guidance, bending to their will in every decision and action. The impact of this can be profoundly isolating, as they may also limit your contact with friends and family under the guise of protecting you. By restricting your social interactions, they cut off your support system, ensuring that you're left to rely solely on them for validation and companionship. This isolation reinforces the control as you feel increasingly detached from anyone who might offer an outside perspective. The psychological toll of this manipulation often leads you to question your own identity and values. After prolonged exposure to this kind of control, you may find yourself suppressing your thoughts and desires to avoid conflict, essentially molding yourself to fit their expectations. This self-suppression erodes your sense of self as you become so focused on pleasing them that you lose sight of what you actually want. Control is never about love or care, it's about creating a one-sided dynamic where their needs, wants, and perspectives overshadow everything else. A truly controlling person sees you not as a partner, but as an extension of themselves, existing solely to fulfill their vision of how life should be. The most devastating impact of this kind of control is that it leaves you questioning your worth and capacity for independence. When someone repeatedly limits your choices, belittles your opinions, and dominates your space, it's natural to feel as though your own identity and voice are insignificant. Over time, you may internalize their criticism, believing that you're somehow less than or incapable of making good choices on your own. This can lead to feelings of inadequacy, insecurity, and dependency, which only further fuel their control over you. Recognizing the signs of a controlling personality is essential to maintaining your own sense of agency and self-respect. Control may be cloaked in the guise of care or concern, but true relationships are built on mutual respect and equality, not dominance or coercion. Chapter 5: Pathological Lying, Deception Without Guilt. A truly harmful person will lie without hesitation or remorse, treating deception as their tool of choice to shape reality in a way that suits their agenda. Unlike occasional fibs or minor exaggerations, a pathological liar doesn't merely tweak the truth, they invent entirely fabricated realities. These aren't just white lies meant to spare feelings. Instead, they create carefully crafted stories that serve their own needs, regardless of how this dishonesty impacts others. Pathological lying is a deeply ingrained behavior for them, one that dismantles any hope of genuine trust and leaves those around them feeling disoriented, hurt, and ultimately betrayed. Pathological liars are adept at making their stories sound incredibly convincing. They've often rehearsed their lies so well that even the smallest details sound believable. This level of deception can easily make you doubt your own perception, especially when the lies are woven into everyday conversations. They'll lie about everything, big things, small things, and everything in between, without any apparent reason other than to manipulate, control, or simply confuse. This kind of dishonesty goes beyond practical purposes and becomes a means of reinforcing their own distorted version of reality. The unsettling part is that they show no signs of guilt, remorse, or even hesitation. Lying is second nature to them, an impulse they indulge without considering the harm they inflict. What makes this even more insidious is the way they tailor their lies to fit each person they interact with. With one person, they might portray themselves as a victim of circumstances, while with another, they're a hero who overcame the odds. This selective storytelling allows them to build customized personas for each individual, making it incredibly challenging to piece together who they really are. If you find yourself noticing inconsistencies, like hearing different versions of the same story told to different people, that's a glaring red flag. For instance, they might tell you they were somewhere doing something completely different from what they told someone else. These discrepancies may start small, but over time, you'll realize they're part of a larger pattern that reveals their habit of twisting the truth at will. Another unsettling characteristic of pathological lying is how effortlessly they justify their deception. Even when caught red-handed, they'll have an explanation or excuse ready to turn the situation around. Confronting them may be met with deflection, where they change the subject or accuse you of being overly sensitive. They might claim, "I only lied because I didn't want to upset you," or even accuse you of not trusting them enough. This deflection tactic not only sidesteps accountability, but also places the burden of blame on you, making you feel guilty for questioning their integrity. Their lack of remorse for these manipulations reflects a moral deficiency, as they see lying as a strategy rather than an ethical issue. Pathological liars also employ gaslighting, a tactic where they make you doubt your own memory or perception. They might say, "I never said that," or "You must be remembering wrong," even though you clearly recall their words. Over time, this can create a sense of confusion and self-doubt, where you begin to question your reality and instincts. Gaslighting is not only deceptive, but emotionally abusive, as it erodes your confidence and makes it harder to trust yourself. This manipulation technique keeps you dependent on their version of events and allows them to maintain control over you by making you feel unreliable. In relationships, pathological lying creates an environment where the truth is constantly in question. If you can't trust what someone says, how can you build a foundation of trust and openness? This constant deception keeps you off balance, preventing you from feeling secure. You may find yourself feeling paranoid, trying to verify their stories, or questioning everything they tell you. The mental exhaustion from dealing with a pathological liar can take a significant toll, leaving you emotionally drained and disconnected from your own sense of reality. What's especially damaging is that pathological liars often possess a disarming charm that makes you want to believe them. They may use their charisma and storytelling skills to cast themselves in a sympathetic light, playing on your emotions to gain your trust. But once you start seeing through the charm and noticing the lies, the illusion begins to crumble. You realize that everything they've shown you might be a fabrication, crafted to keep you in a web of deception. This awareness can be painful, especially if you've invested time, trust, or love into a relationship with them. One of the most challenging aspects of dealing with a pathological liar is that they may actually start to believe their own lies. This phenomenon, known as compulsive lying, can blur the line between reality and fiction for them. They've lied so frequently and convincingly that they can convince themselves of their own narratives, making it difficult to separate the real from the fabricated. This self-deception gives them an added layer of conviction when telling lies, as they may genuinely believe they're telling the truth. However, this doesn't excuse their behavior or lessen the impact of their deceit. It only makes it harder for others to navigate the relationship. Pathological lying also affects those around them by creating an environment of constant vigilance. You may feel as if you're always on guard, trying to anticipate when the next lie will surface or if any part of what they're saying is true. This anxiety can take a toll on your mental health, leaving you feeling stressed, frustrated, and mistrustful of others. The emotional exhaustion that comes from dealing with a pathological liar can erode your self-esteem as they continuously chip away at your sense of reality and autonomy. In the end, understanding the behavior of a pathological liar allows you to protect yourself from the emotional harm they can inflict. Recognizing the signs of this trait early on can save you from being ensnared in their manipulative games and allow you to establish boundaries that preserve your well-being. If someone's constant dishonesty makes you feel insecure, it's essential to take a step back and reevaluate the relationship. Trust is the cornerstone of any healthy connection, and without it, there's little foundation on which to build. Chapter 6: Lack of accountability, blaming everyone else. One of the clearest signs of a toxic person is their complete refusal to take responsibility for their own actions, often finding ways to cast blame on everyone else but themselves. When confronted with their faults, an individual who lacks accountability immediately looks for scapegoats, creating a pattern of avoidance that reveals a deeply rooted unwillingness to admit any wrongdoing. This evasion doesn't just signal selfishness, it indicates a dangerous lack of self-awareness and an inflated sense of ego, as they genuinely believe they are somehow above making mistakes or facing consequences. In their eyes, they are almost always the victim of someone else's errors or the unfortunate product of bad luck. This behavior often starts in minor ways. For example, they might blame something as trivial as traffic for their lateness or a biased friend if they have a disagreement. At first glance, these excuses may seem harmless, even understandable. But over time, a troubling pattern emerges. They never accept responsibility. The default setting is to point fingers, creating a web of excuses that paints them as the innocent party every time. Their refusal to be accountable doesn't just cause irritation, it gradually breaks down trust, leaving you feeling like you're navigating an emotional minefield, anticipating when you'll next be unfairly blamed. In close relationships, the damage caused by someone lacking accountability can be severe. They might twist situations to make you feel guilty for things that are completely out of your control. Imagine you raise a valid concern, hoping for an open conversation, only to be met with accusations that you are overreacting or always negative. Even worse, if they've hurt your feelings, they'll often deflect by saying, "I was just joking," or "You're too sensitive," effectively shifting the blame back onto you. This tactic is particularly harmful because it invalidates your feelings, leaving you questioning your own reality. Rather than expressing empathy or learning from feedback, they protect their ego, which they hold above any emotional connection or growth opportunity. This deflection is a form of psychological manipulation designed to keep you second-guessing your perspective and emotional responses. By constantly denying responsibility, they dodge any possibility of change, repeating the same harmful behaviors while pushing the blame outward. In their mind, they've constructed a version of reality where they are blameless, reinforcing a dangerous cycle of denial and avoidance. For the people around them, especially close friends or partners, this endless loop of justification can lead to exhaustion, frustration, and a growing sense of helplessness as issues go unresolved and conflicts multiply. Pathological lack of accountability is also marked by their tendency to employ tactics like whataboutism to derail conversations. Let's say you call them out on a hurtful comment or inconsiderate action. Instead of acknowledging the issue, they'll redirect the conversation by bringing up your past mistakes or introducing unrelated grievances. This maneuver serves to deflect attention from their own behavior, shifting the blame to you and effectively sidestepping any constructive resolution. These redirections do more than just evade the topic at hand. They create confusion and emotional chaos, leaving you defending yourself and struggling to address their behavior. Over time, these tactics create a toxic cycle where issues remain perpetually unresolved and you're left feeling unheard and unappreciated. This lack of accountability doesn't just damage relationships, it also prevents any possibility of personal growth. A person who evades responsibility repeatedly isn't interested in introspection or self-improvement. They rarely, if ever, reflect on their actions or learn from past mistakes, remaining stuck in a mindset that refuses to evolve. Their deflection tactics enable them to uphold a false image of perfection at the expense of everyone else's emotional well-being. The people around them are forced to carry the weight of their mistakes, constantly adjusting to avoid setting off conflict. This constant pressure is mentally exhausting, and you might begin to feel more like a caretaker for their emotional stability than an equal partner in the relationship. In relationships, this refusal to be accountable erodes any foundation of trust or mutual respect. When a person cannot admit fault or acknowledge the consequences of their actions, they create an environment of fear and self-doubt. Over time, you might find yourself taking on their blame just to keep the peace, shouldering the responsibility for situations that aren't your fault. This unbalanced dynamic is incredibly draining, leaving you feeling responsible for their emotional state while they continue unchecked, free from the burden of accountability. Relationships should be spaces of growth, support, and respect, but when someone refuses to acknowledge their impact on others, they rob you of any sense of stability or validation. Over time, this lack of accountability reveals itself to be a major red flag, indicating a person who prioritizes self-preservation above all else. In relationships with such individuals, any issue becomes your problem by default, and any conflict ends with you questioning yourself instead of addressing the real cause. Recognizing this behavior early on can be essential for protecting your emotional well-being, as their refusal to take responsibility can erode even the most resilient of relationships. It's important to understand that accountability is fundamental to a balanced and healthy partnership. When someone continuously avoids it, they're unlikely to ever build the mutual respect necessary for a positive, supportive relationship. Lack of accountability may not seem like a glaring red flag at first glance, but its impact is cumulative. Each incident adds to an environment that becomes increasingly toxic and one-sided. By refusing to recognize the harm they cause, individuals who lack accountability ultimately reveal a disturbing lack of empathy and respect. Relationships thrive on equality, trust, and the shared willingness to accept and grow from one's own flaws. Without accountability, these foundations crumble, leaving behind an emotionally taxing, unrewarding connection that consumes your energy and self-worth. Recognizing this pattern early can help you protect yourself from someone who, no matter how charming or convincing they may appear, will never offer the reciprocity and honesty essential for a healthy relationship. Chapter 7: Self-centeredness, always the center of attention. An evil person is often profoundly self-centered, expecting the world to revolve around their needs, desires, and opinions. They don't just have a healthy sense of self, they demand constant attention, admiration, and validation. This excessive self-centeredness often manifests in their complete lack of interest in others' feelings, interests, or achievements, viewing every interaction as an opportunity to make themselves the focus. They may appear charming initially, but their attention span wanes quickly unless the spotlight remains on them. Self-centered individuals often monopolize conversations, steering topics back to themselves regardless of what's being discussed. Suppose you're excited about a recent accomplishment or want to share a personal experience. In that case, they'll likely interrupt, dismiss your story, or make a quick pivot to something about their own life. Over time, this behavior can make you feel invisible or undervalued, as they never take genuine interest in what you have to say. Your needs, emotions, and interests become secondary or even irrelevant to them. In relationships, this self-centered attitude can lead to an extreme imbalance. They might demand your attention and time but give very little in return. They might expect you to drop everything to support them, but when you need help or reassurance, they're nowhere to be found. This selfishness also extends to decision-making. Plans, vacations, or even small daily choices will often be dictated by their preferences, with little regard for what you want. They see relationships not as partnerships, but as opportunities for control and gratification, expecting unwavering loyalty without reciprocation. A self-centered person often displays little interest in empathy or compromise. Instead of considering how their actions affect others, they prioritize their own comfort and desires. For example, if you express discomfort or set boundaries, they may accuse you of being difficult or unreasonable. In their mind, your existence should serve their needs, and any resistance is met with hostility or emotional withdrawal. This behavior makes it difficult to have an authentic connection, as they are unwilling to give anything that doesn't directly benefit them. Another sign of extreme self-centeredness is the need for constant praise. They may frequently fish for compliments, boasting about their achievements or exaggerating their skills and experiences to receive admiration. This neediness can create an emotionally draining dynamic, as they expect you to act as their cheerleader continually. However, any criticism or feedback is met with anger or defensiveness, as they can't tolerate the idea that they're anything less than perfect. This combination of arrogance and insecurity makes it challenging to communicate openly and honestly with them. In the end, a self-centered person's world is small, revolving entirely around themselves. Trying to build a relationship with someone like this can leave you feeling unseen, unheard, and emotionally exhausted. Recognizing this trait early can save you from investing time and energy into a relationship that lacks reciprocity. Stepping away from such individuals allows you to focus on connections where mutual respect and understanding are truly valued. These signs aren't always immediately obvious, as harmful people are often skilled at hiding their true intentions behind a facade of charm or affection. But paying close attention to patterns in their behavior, especially if multiple red flags appear, can help you protect yourself from toxic relationships. Understanding these traits gives you the power to make informed decisions, allowing you to establish boundaries that preserve your emotional and mental well-being. In a world full of different personalities, recognizing harmful behavior isn't about judging others harshly. It's about protecting your own peace and ensuring you're surrounded by people who genuinely care for you. If you spot these warning signs, take it as a signal to reassess the relationship. Remember, no relationship is worth sacrificing your well-being. It's always okay to walk away and choose people who value, respect, and support you. Thank you for tuning in today. If this episode resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share your story in the comments below. Knowing these signs can be a game changer, so keep this knowledge close and always prioritize your mental and emotional health. See you in the next episode.